This program is sponsored in part by the National Catholic Society of Foresters. Hello again and welcome to Looking at Social Justice. This is a podcast, but also for some people it'll be a YouTube video. So if there's an image, you'll need to follow that up. But we're having a conversation today with Sam Molina from Mi Familia Vota. If you remember, one of the early programs in our series on looking at social justice, we did have a great conversation with Sam over his work as director for the state of California for Mi Familia Vota. So why don't we begin, Sam, by letting you remind us just a little bit about what it's like being the state director for that wonderful program of Mi Familia Vota, what you're engaged in right now with that project, before we start talking about Census 2020, which is our agenda for today. So what's going on with Mi Familia Vota?
So, it's a rewarding experience being the director of California for Mi Familia Vota, and right now we are focusing heavily on the census, right? We have an upcoming census in 2020, and for the last year and a half or so I've been part of statewide meeting tables and regional tables, making sure that we're doing all that we can to make sure that the community participates in the 2020 census.
So it makes so much sense that when I started getting invited by Jesus Martinez from Civic to be coming to these meetings, that at the beginning I thought we're going to meet once, we meet twice, we meet again, we meet again. It's like every other week we're meeting because there is so much to do. But Mi Familia Vota is obviously front and center with a group like Census 2020, because it's really your agenda also at this time. This is what you're about.
Right. It's because Mi Familia Vota is focused on increasing Latino and immigrant civic participation, right? And everything goes back to the census and redistricting to make sure that our community is counted and adequately represented in the electoral process. So we are part of the tables in Stanislaus County, Riverside and San Bernardino County, Fresno, and also again statewide with the Census Policy Advocacy Network. So we're trying to be at the table, making sure that each of our regions are adequately counted and the state as well.
Well, you definitely are at the table, because at our most recent meeting, we wound up having an impromptu election to increase our leadership, and sure enough, you were elected a co-chair of this of our local Fresno County Complete Count Committee. It was great being at that meeting and seeing that all these people in that room that I'm getting to know a little. You've been working with this group of civic advocates for a long time. This is what Mi Familia Vota does. You've made networking with almost everybody in that room, I suppose.
Well, yes. I just hit my 5th year mark on April 1st, so I've been working with the community for quite some time. When looking forward to the 2020 census, we have some things, of concern, right? We have an administration that is pushing for a citizenship question, which we expect will depress the count. We also have an administration that is not adequately funding the 2020 census, which we estimate may be short of $2 billion. And then also they are trying to ensure that only citizens can work on the 2020 census, which for a long time, legal permanent residents were able to apply and work for the census as enumerators and fill other positions to make sure that the language gap is filled, and that individuals who are culturally competent are working within the community.
I'm becoming more aware of how much possibility from messing up something one single person can do, like executive orders and doing things that are so arbitrary that wind up being able to affect a change like that. The administration can change what is a standard operating procedure.
That's right. And people, I don't think at some times realize how important the 2020 census is, right? We're talking about 132 federally funded programs as a result of the 2020 census. Over $76 billion goes to California because of this the count, right? And for every person who does not complete a census survey, you're estimating about $2,000 loss. And over 10 years, that's a $20,000 loss, right? So we can't afford, California cannot afford to be undercounted, nor do we want to risk losing our votes in Congress, right? If we're if we're undercounted by 1.5 million people, we'll lose congressional representation. And you know, in the 2010 census, or prior to the 2010 census, Congressman Jim Acosta was the only representative between Madera and Kern County before we got Valadao in there. And now, you know, now that position's filled by T.J. Cox. But you know, you're talking about one representative for over 1 million people from Madera to Kern. So we have to make sure that the 2020 census is adequately funded and that we are accurately counted.
The first question that you posed that I would ask you is like a brief survey of the history of the census. So how much of a historical travel do you want to offer us? I think it's kind of interesting that you would begin that way, because I was just having a phone call with Venancio Gaona, who is very involved in this process. He was not bragging, but admitting, I was involved, he says, in 2010, in 2000, and in 1990. So certain people have been at this every 10 years. How much of a history do you want to give us to show the importance of the census?
Well, I think it's important to know that the citizenship question was removed as a result of the passing of the Civil Rights Act in 1964, right? So we, at one time, we were putting on the citizenship question on the surveys, but after the Civil Rights Act passed, we removed it because we knew that it depressed the count, it was unfair, and it was ultimately racist. So we removed it, and it wasn't until, you know, I think 2017 when Secretary Wilbur Ross asked the Department of Justice to put it back on there, or requested the Census Department put it on there, did we have this issue, right? And so we would just hope that moving forward, after the Supreme Court will start to hear the citizenship question on April 23rd, and they have to make their decision by June as to whether or not it's going to stay on the 2020 Census Survey.
Just guessing, where do you see that going?
I'm hoping for the best. You know, we filed a lawsuit against it, and we won. So we're hoping that the citizenship question gets removed. I mean, the census is about counting every person, not every citizen, but every person in the United States.
For sure.
Right? And so that's what we should be doing. That's what we should be aiming to do moving forward.
The basically second question is moving it to particulars. So nationally and statewide, what would you say is the status of the preparation we're going through right now? Maybe begin nationally. Nationally, what's going on to prep for the 2020 census?
Well, nationally, we have partners, you know, meeting in D.C. We're part of the Census Kitchen Cabinet table in D.C., working with partners like NALEO and PNA and many others to figure out what's the right messaging, what's that going to look like after the Supreme Court's decision, and how do we best prepare for the 2020 census. We're also working with our congressional representatives to make sure that they pass a budget that increases the, you know, fulfills the gap, right, the budget gap, where we need to bring in another $2 billion. Because the administration was only posing about a little over $6.3 billion, where we need to go up to about 8.5 to make sure that the census is adequately funded. So that's where we are at the national level. It's about pushing Congress to pass an adequate budget.
So on the national level, there is so much possibility of making this intentionally an undercount. It's just like a goal, a professed goal, kind of.
It seems so.
It does.
And these are going to hurt communities largely with immigrant populations, right? California, New York, you have Texas, you have immigrant populations in Arkansas and Alabama, places where people wouldn't really think. But you know, again, they could go under Canada as well, and it's going to hurt them as well.
On the state level, which is basically how you work and how this project of Jesus is doing. It's basically California. Tell us about what's going on there.
Well,
What's the prep?
I'm very proud of California. We've taken the steps to pass a budget last year where we allocated $90 million to tribal communities, counties, community benefit organizations, and the media, right, to allocate funds so that we can best prepare for the 2020 census. And we're working, with Advancement Project and many others as part of the CPAN table to ask the state again to adequately fund the 2020 census. So Governor Newsom had actually asked for $50 million. I think we're raising it to $90 million plus. Because we're saying, hey, there's still a gap, and there's going to be a lot of work to do, and unfortunately, the state's going to have to fill in where the federal government isn't. Right? They're going to have to step in. So California's taken the lead. Many counties are already working together with their CBOs and community members to ensure that there's an adequate count of each of their regions. So very proud of the work California is doing. We're ahead of many other states where they're still trying to figure out a budget and what that's going to look like for their communities and funding them.
When you use words that or letters, I'm going to have you explain.
Okay.
Some explaining to do. What's CPAN and CBOs, so that those listeners will say, "Oh, I understand."
CPAN is a Census Policy Advocacy Network, so it's comprised of about 21 organizations, and it's led by Advancement Project out of Los Angeles. And CBOs stands for Community Benefit Organizations, or some will say community-based.
And you're intentionally working with this for a long time now. It's not like you got whipped up weeks ago. This is something you've seen on your agenda, and it's been part of your work.
That's right.
Another question would be, moving now, we've talked about nationally, there's some real obstacles to what's going on. Statewide, you're more positive that we're doing our best. We're doing some good things. What are some community benefit organizations? So there's your CBOs. What can they do to really start actively participating in this 2020 census, Sam? What can CBOs start doing?
Some of the things that community benefit organizations can do is really start to learn more about it if they haven't already engaged their colleagues or their counties in this arena, and also get their community engaged, right? So if they have a base of community members, reaching out to them, educating them on the 2020 census, and even things like social media pushes, right? Our Fresno County Complete Count Committee created a Facebook page recently, so we're going to have some material being shared there. There's some posts coming out later today where we're taking information directly from the census website and putting it out there so that people are aware that surveys are already going out to community members, not the actual 2020 census survey, but certain surveys are going out. And there's also a section in there for frequently asked questions. So we want to make sure that these our partners are seeing this information, they're relaying it to their community members, and that they can also that they realize they can also go to their counties, because just about every county applied for census funding, so they should be working with their community benefit organizations in their regions and really talking to them about the 2020 census.
Two things is, if somebody is watching this, like obviously on a YouTube program, this is the time we could let them know that they could be following the link of this Facebook posting that we've put there.
So you'll be able to find our Facebook page in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening to our podcast, you can just type in Fresno County Complete Count Committee in the search bar in Facebook.
Now, one thing about the CBO, it's nice to know that they are called community benefit organizations. For me and for others, examples of what these may be, because you're saying, got to get these people doing something, they've got to reach out to their constituents. Who are these people?
So, I mean, Mi Familia Vota Education Fund is a CBO, right? We have partners like NALEO, Centro La Familia, Leadership Council. These are examples of CBOs, right? That here in the Central Valley, Fresno Economic Opportunities Commission, right?
Oh,
so these are the people you should be going to for information. And our Complete Count Committee meetings are open to the public. So if you're not getting this information, You should be able to find it through your county contacts, or just go to your local, community benefit organization, reach out to them, see if they've heard anything, and connect you. Because, as I said, we're having meetings in Stanislaus County, meetings in Fresno, San Bernardino, and Riverside, and so I would imagine that the other counties are doing it as well.
Yeah. Are you feeling that what's going on right now with our particular one, the one that I go to in Fresno, is, how would I say it? Are you finding it energizing, inspiring what we're accomplishing? Do you see the need for certain other members to be challenged who are listening or seeing this program? You've got to be there. We are missing certain constituencies. We are just looking at the group that we are. There's some missing in action here. What might be some positive feedback you could give to the listener about, and the viewer, about why they might want to be there, that they really need to be in touch with that Facebook posting to find out, well, when do you meet next? Who's missing, Sam? Who do we need?
Well, we need more representation across the board, right? I mean, there's over 100 different languages in the city of Fresno spoken, and we definitely don't have every person who can speak a language, speaks those 100 varied languages here in the city of Fresno at the table, right? We mostly have individuals from from the Punjabi community, Latino community, and I have to think who else was there at the table, but
well, there's Islamic community,
the
so
Islamic
they'll
community
reach out in
there,
Arabic and Farsi.
Right, but we need everyone at the table, every community member, community leader who can be there, because if they're not at the table, then we can't ensure that their communities will be adequately reached out to, that it will be culturally competent. So we want to make sure that we're doing that in the best way possible. I mean, these meetings are great because everybody there really cares about the community and wants to ensure that this is an adequate count. So we have to bring more people to the table, and that's why I'm glad that the Facebook page is up, because now more people will be able to see this information and join our meetings. I mean, right now we have about 20 to 25 people in the meeting, but we need to have these meetings with about 50 to 100 people, just because Fresno County's about 1 million people, and it's not going to get done just by 20 individuals.
Speaking of the wonderful people that do meet and are really passionate about it, do you want to tell us something about one committee in particular, the media committee? And then you may want to say, yeah, but I've got some other committees I want to highlight also, either because they're doing a great job or they need more members in that committee. There's too few trying to pull that committee together. What about the media, that awesome media committee?
Well, so I'm a part of the media subcommittee, and we're in charge of the Facebook page, reaching out on social media. We had a graphic created by Nasserine Johnson, who helped create that nice logo on there. So if you're on the Facebook page, you'll see it there. And as far as the other committees, unfortunately, I don't have too much knowledge about what's going on with the other committees. I would say that our co-chairs have been doing a really good job of organizing the meetings and getting those things structured, which provides great guidance and leadership for the overall complete count committee, right?
I could say one thing about the famous what is it called? Faith-based committee, which I'm on. What we've done so far is try, and some of you who are watching this program or listening to it may have already received or are going to receive the Easter issue of Central California Catholic Life. And in there is a brief promo, a little tease about the importance of the census. So I'm hoping that the 87 parishes that are going to be receiving this Easter gift from the diocese, that you'll pay attention to that promotional piece I wrote about getting engaged in this Census 2020, because one large group is the Catholic Church. And if we could get our parishes to decide to commit to doing things. Now, challenge us, Sam. What would you wish the Catholic community might do at their parish level or their mission level, their outreach to their smaller gatherings of people that are not even at the main church, but they're in a mission? What do you want the Catholics to do, Sam?
Well, I can think of a few things, right? Invite some elected officials, invite some of the leaders of the Complete Count Committee to come maybe do a panel, have some of the community benefit organizations hand out the census information, right, and provide information to the parishes. And in 2010, I think Fresno County actually did like an ice cream social where it was like, come get an ice cream and do your 2020, do your 2010 census survey. So maybe that could be something the Catholic Church could look into, or the diocese, I'm sorry, to doing, right? Hosting events, hosting large events, whether it's panels, ice cream socials, what have you. We need to make sure that our community is engaged and participating. One of the things that you asked for among community leaders, our elected officials need to be participating in these Complete Count committees. We really need them there. They have a lot more resources than our CBOs do, and can reach out to the members of their district. So we would definitely enjoy having them there, participating and being a part of the conversation.
What about, let's say, like the Board of Supervisors? It is that our meeting is Fresno County. So it would seem that our target area, it's not exclusively that bone-looking image that we have on the Facebook page, but it is basically, that's basically it. I mean, we're focusing on the great Fresno County, like you said, more than 1 million people.
Right.
How do we engage the county? How do you get the BOS to decide, yeah, this is important. We've got to do something in our 5 districts.
Right. So we do have some county staff there. You saw Catherine there at the meeting last Friday.
That's right. And
I think it's just a matter of, I'm not sure who's receiving the invitations, but we just need to make sure that we're inviting them. But I also, at the same time, would hope that they would reach out and come to our meetings as well.
So, meetings. We meet, when is the possible next meeting? Can we pick a date? It is a Friday. What day will it be?
I believe our next meeting is April 26th.
Let's say it's April 26th.
And we meet bi-weekly. Our general meetings are bi-weekly. So every other Friday.
And where are we meeting anymore? We've moved.
I believe we're meeting at the Fresno Adult School the next meeting on April 26th.
The Cesar Chavez Center.
The Cesar Chavez Adult School, that's right.
That's it. So, we've done a bit of a push to kind of admit we're doing some good stuff.
That's right.
The administration's not doing a good thing. The state's doing a little better. Our local effort, positive energy. Can you repeat what you already said at the beginning, the importance of the success of the census, Sam? Like why everybody's got to count.
Right.
Everyone's got to do this thing, but it's not everyone's favorite thing to do. So how do we sweeten this?
This is what I would say. The number one thing to me, and I don't think enough people speak on it, is that not only does the census dictate the funding levels that the state gets and ultimately is distributed to counties, but it also dictates water allocation, right? And so we want our communities to have water. We need to make sure that they're participating in the census, right? And this is information that a lot of people don't share when we discuss the census. So you're talking about 132 federally funded programs. This is money that goes to public safety, to our schools, to our veterans, to children of special needs. And it also can undercut our vote in Congress, right? So we want to make sure that California has as many representatives as possible. We're a population of 40 million. We don't need to lose any electoral votes. We don't need to lose any votes in Congress. So it's important that everybody's is counted, and so that our voices are represented ultimately in the U.S. Congress.
One thing that we didn't mention the word, but we've been about it, is hard to count. So tell us what it means to know that our area of the state is very prone to an undercount because of hard to count populations. List some of these hard to count.
There are 13 counties in California that are hard to count communities. There are a few here in the Central Valley. Los Angeles County is the #1 hard to count county in the United States.
Oh my.
Right. And so Los Angeles has actually been working with their city and county governments since about 2017 as well. So they're a little ahead of the curve when it comes to where everybody else is with their complete count committees. They've been meeting together, and they're already working on quick action centers, quick action kiosks for people to, and determining where those locations will be for the 2020 census. When you think about hard to count communities, these are communities that typically have an immigrant population, both documented and undocumented, language barriers. When we look at the 2020 census, we're going to have issues with Wi-Fi, people having access to online capabilities. So that's another part where we have to make sure that we're engaging partners that can provide mobile units and have not only Wi-Fi but computer access, so that the community members are participating in the 2020 census. So that's where our schools are really going to come in with their computer labs and hopefully open their doors so that parents can come into a safe environment and conduct the census survey, or complete the census survey, I'm sorry.
Safe and secure. People have to feel that they are not going to be compromised.
That's right.
You've got 1 minute. What is your final last thought, Sam?
If you're out there, you're listening to this video, again, get engaged, learn more about why it's important to participate in the 2020 census. Join your local complete count committee. Anybody can be a part of it. You don't have to be, a community leader. You don't have to be an executive director. If you just want to learn more, come out to the complete count committees here in Fresno. Our next meeting will be April 26th. We meet bi-weekly, and we need all the help we can get because we need everyone to participate in the 2020 census.
I'll just add a detail. It meets bi-weekly. It's from 12 to 2. It's a good time for the lunch group that says, well, I only lose an hour. I could get. We don't serve lunch, but we do serve great people are there. Great people are there.
That's right.
And usually there's some water.
That's right.
I want to thank Sam for once again being here. We're going to be doing a series with other people like Sam about other aspects of the census. But today we gave you an overview. We'll be back again with another guest next time. Till then, take care and keep looking at social justice.